So we just finished installing a GX5 system on a 4-row strip freshener bar. What we did specifically for this guy is he wanted a 55-gallon tank, so we put that on there. Looking at the ball valves that are here, we're just coming out of the tank with one bung. We're going to fill on this side. We have a cam lock back here. He can open his ball valve, we'll then fill the tank. And then when he wants to draw from the pump, there's this ball valve here. This ball valve can be opened. I'm going to close it for now. And then we will just go into the pump system back here. We have a 30 mesh filter on the inlet side. We're doing a biological product with this. We're using Nutrient Ag's Altura and Black Max product mixed with some 32, and then we're putting that out. So because of that, we're able to use a 30 mesh filter in conjunction with the microtubing that we're using. As we come into the GX5 hydraulic diaphragm pump here, this model is the LFP80. It's rated for down to half a gallon per minute and up to 18 gallon per minute. So we're coming into the pump from the spiral hose, we're coming out of this 1-inch rubber hose, and we're coming to our magnetic flow meter. We always prefer to use a magnetic flow meter over a turbine flow meter. They tend to be more accurate, then we get a little bit more of a broad range out of these ones as well. We're coming out with a 3/4 inch hose down to the row units. Over here towards the row, we're taking advantage of our GX6 dual microtube and dual check valve setup for the manifold. So we don't have any sight glasses on this. The product that's going to be ran is real dark, so you can't even see the sight glasses. And then we don't have an automatic row monitor system like our GX7 on this one, so we wanted to use the GX6 manifold setup. So on this check valve body that we have here, this setup's a little bit different, but we have the first check valve and our second check valve. If I decide, in this case where our microtubing is, the purple is my smaller size, the orange is my larger size. If I wanted to only put out if I wanted to only use my smaller microtube, let's say because I wanted more pressure, I'm going to open my top, and you can see some of that green down there, and then I'm going to close my large one. And then let's say now I'm getting too much pressure, I'm going to open my larger tube, I'm going to close my smaller tube, and then I'll take advantage of just putting liquid out through my larger tube. Now I could open up both of these if I wanted to as well and put liquid out through both tubes, and I can get an even higher rate out of there. So you would want to do that if you were, say if you had a high-speed planner and you started speeding up, or if you really needed to put out a higher gallonage rate, then you can open up both of these. Now what we're doing at the row, this one's a little unconventional. We don't do this as often, but where we're coming out with 2 microtubes per check valve, that's because down at the row unit, we're putting liquid out on both sides of the row. So the left side and right side of the row here. So because of that, we want to keep an equal flow distribution to all the rows. So what the best thing you can do is have your orificing, in this case the microtubing, you want to be able to orifice it accurately for both sides of the row right to the application point, so you can get an even application on both sides of the row. So because of that, whatever his gallon per acre rate is, or whatever yours would be, let's say in this case if it's 30 gallon per acre, I'm sizing each microtube for 15 gallon per acre. So we get a little bit of a smaller inside diameter, but because of that, we're able to properly send the correct amount of product to each side of the row. So as I come out of each check valve here, I will have one orange microtube would go to one side, and then the other microtube is coming to the other side of the row. And then the purple is following it. So if I follow just this one portion here, if I want to only use my smaller microtube, I have my one check valve open with the purple microtube connecting to it, and then I'm splicing off to my left and right side. So right now, if only my purple is open, I'm putting out product through both of my purple tubes and all the way down to the row. And so if I wanted to switch tubes, I just close my purple, I open my orange, same thing, liquid only goes out through the orange tubes to both sides of the row. So that's how we are able to accurately put out liquid on both sides of the row utilizing a microtube. And then down at the row unit, we're just putting it down through the stainless tube, just right on the ground. So we have a G5 monitor in here. I just set up the Green Star liquid controller, so I'll show you how I did that. So down here on my ISO VT, I hit that. This is a screen I'm presented with. I'm going to go to setup. For you, you'll need to make your implement as liquid fert tool, and then you will hit new. When you hit new here, you can type in the name of what you want your product to be, or what you want the setup to be. Once you do that, you press OK, And then you can put in your implement width. In this case, I'm 4 rows on 30 inches, so that's a 10-foot bar. I don't have any sections, but if I did, I would press setup sections. I'd put in my number of sections, then my width for each section. In this case, I'm not using a height switch, I'm just utilizing the switch in the cab, but if I did have a height switch, I can check that. If you're using a deer planner, you can set this to receive status and you will share the height switch with your seed sensor. Or if you were using one of our height switches, then you would connect this to do not share. The next will be your system tab. Your section valve type will always be 3-wire. Constant flow will not be checked. Control valve type will be PWM close. You could choose PWM if you wanted to. PWM is always going to keep that pump on. Even if you turn your master switch off, even if your implement is raised, your pump will always be on if you do PWM. So you really only want to utilize that for agitation. Or else for most of everyone, you're going to choose PWM close. So when you hit your master switch or when you raise the bar, the pump shuts off. Put in your tank capacity there. Under PWM setup, you will have your control valve calibration for a hydraulic pump. Typically it is 4012. The GX2 electric pump, you would put in 9911. Coil frequency will always be 100. High limit will be at 255. Low limit, generally for an electric pump would be 0. Generally for a hydraulic pump, this would be set to, I'd say about 25 to start off with. Next from there, you have your flow calibration. For the flow meter I have, it is 4542. Look at the manual. There's a yellow sticker on the front of it with the serial number. We'll have your flow cal written there as well. Your flow meter units will always be set to gallon. Make sure your flow return is not checked and your constant flow is not checked. If you had a pressure sensor, then you can select your pressure sensor and calibrate. You will do a voltage-based calibration, and we calibrate ours at 50. And then in this case, since I don't have a pressure sensor, I'm just not going to have that checked. Next is your alarms page. You can just have in whatever you prefer there. For your rates, minimum flow, always have that set to 0. Don't ever put a value in there. Always have that set to 0. And rate smoothing will be checked, and you'll want to leave that at 10%. And then these will be your preset rates on your home page. For this case, I just put in 20 and 30 and 40 as a default, but these can change. And that would be it for the setup on the Greenstar controller.